I'm going to keep blue chipping away at this stack of comic books that I won at auction. Hey there, today I have a continuation of an unboxing of a stack of comics that I won at auction from HipComic from the seller Quality Comics. If you remember in the first unboxing, I kind of went through some Amazing Spider-Man books, and what I realized is the bulk of this auction winning stack, most of it is Amazing Spider-Man. And I'd like to continue going through the order and give you a little bit of an update too, just because I am changing formats and I just wanted to kind of explain. What I'm doing is I'm going through the books that I won, but breaking up larger orders into smaller segments. And what that's allowing me to do is actually go through each book and actually grade it. So even though I may not be grading the book during the video, I'm grading it after the fact and sharing that grade with you along with the values in the final edit of the video. So that way you can actually see not only the books that I'm buying, but what condition am I assigning to these books. And what I'm trying to do is figure out within this set of books or even the subset, can I identify a book that I would truly like to work on, to clean and press myself? And I already found one with Amazing Spider-Man 310. It was a newsstand copy, and I noticed that there were some pressable defects with it. And right after the unboxing, I ran the book through a clean and press and have a few before and after photos that I'll share with you here. But what I ended up finding is on the back of the book, it was weird. It seemed like almost like a grease stain or just some really gnarly fingerprints, and it's just something that I couldn't get out. It almost looked like maybe even some of the gloss was missing. And when I had assessed the book, I assessed it at a 9.0. Then I dry cleaned it, wet cleaned it, and pressed it. And I was anticipating taking the book through another pass and maybe adding some humidity. But once I saw the stains on the back, and really there was probably 3 or 4 color breaks along the spine, one really obvious one, and 3 I call like hairline, like you really have to shift it in the light to see. And I just felt like, with all of that, it's possible it could be a 9.4, but I gave it a 9.2. So I feel like, if my grading was accurate after that first assessment and the grade that I included in the first video at a 9.0, I feel like, it got the bump to a 9.2. But I'm trying to incorporate this sort of philosophy of moving through orders and moving through books and making sure that I understand the grade and the value and keep moving forward to progress my collection. I also want to do the same thing with pressing and cleaning. I don't want to just have a stack of books that I'll press one day or send off to a presser. I'm trying to also work through that. And my philosophy with comic book pressing right now is it does not have to be a 9.8. I don't have to feel like I have to perfect the book. Amazing Spider-Man 310, you saw some of the photos. It is going to be what it is. I cannot magically convert a 9 or a 9.2 into a 9.8 when it has some of those defects that it has. But the point is, I want to identify a book that I can improve. And I think it just sort of taking the pressure off myself and not to maybe obsess or overanalyze a book to the point where I may end up damaging it, or it just doesn't make good sense in terms of my time and any sort of potential financial outcome or value gain. It's just, there is a formula in my head where I just know now, okay, I'm going to work on a book, but I'm only going to take it so far, and then I'm going to move on. So in the spirit of this new format and keeping things succinct and to the point, I'm going to get to the next stack of books. I don't know what they are. It could continue to be Amazing Spider-Man, which would be great. I got a really, really nice run of ASMs in this auction. So let's get back to the stack and look at the next books that I picked up from Quality Comics. All right, here we go. Here is the stack. That first little mini stack that I opened in part 1 of the unboxing was kind of off on its own. The rest of this stack is still sealed here by the tape. So I'm just going to grab the next several books right off the top. I just have to get through this plastic bag here. All right, so I'm through, and let me just see. These are just kind of jumping out at me, and I'll put the rest aside, and let's take a look at the next set of books that I picked up from Quality Comics on the HipComic platform. The first book in this stack is Amazing Spider-Man 228. Again, I think I talked about this before. Is every issue of Amazing Spider-Man valuable? I think to a completionist, the answer is yes, but this is not, this isn't a wall book for me. It's just murder by spider, guys getting just eaten alive by spiders, and here comes a Spider-Man. Trying to go for like a perspective thing, but it's almost like it's like a very, very tiny Spider-Man here. But again, the point was to find these non-keys as part of the auction and put some bids on them where if I were to make a general like best guess or estimate on the grade without really digging into the details, kind of like I did when I was talking about with 310, where I couldn't tell that there was some fingerprint or grease stain on the back just from the scans. So I'm just kind of guessing that it's somewhere in the 8.5 to 9.2 range. And in this one, the spine looked pretty good. There was a little bit of a dirt or piece of something there, but for the most part, looks really nice. This one didn't look like it needed too much cleaning, but a couple pressable defects and dents right up in here. But all in all, a pretty good looking book, and again, for the price I paid, very affordable. Next up is Amazing Spider-Man 232. Always love this cover of Mr. Hyde there. The facial expression, everything is just a very memorable cover from my childhood. This one looked really, really nice, really sharp. The kind of quality here, the condition of these books, it was again where I could tell it's not perfect. These are not necessarily full-on 9.8 candidates on their own, but I really, really tried to stick to my bands of bidding and my max bids to make sure that I was trying to just mitigate risk and continue to add filler to my Amazing Spider-Man run and make sure that I'm trying to get some upgrades. Now, in the first stack, as I noticed when I was putting these books away in my bin, several were, even though I was giving them 9.0s, the other issues I had were like around anywhere from like 7 to 8. So now I have a few copies. So the theory, again, and the plan is that once I have duplicates of some to figure out what do I want to do with some of the books in a lesser grade. One of the ASM with the John Byrne cover where he's got Spider-Man kind of like flying through the rooftops or something like that. I think it's a connected cover as well. I had a 2.5 in there, and that was my only copy. So the fact that I could get that book in the grade that I did was already an upgrade. So I think there's definitely some value in the filler to try and get as high a grade as possible of each issue when you're filling out that run. Next up is Amazing Spider-Man 233. And this one's got Tarantula on the cover. I always think of Spectacular Spider-Man #1 when I think of Tarantula. It's kind of got the same color scheme as Spectacular Spider-Man 1 as well. This one looks really good. One tiny little color breaking tick right there, but strong otherwise. This one looks really, really nice. Similar to ASM 310, the barcode just looks a little bit dirty to me, just not as super bright and clean. So this one would probably be a good candidate to give one pass of a wet clean to and throw it in the press. So this might be my pressing candidate out of the stack. We'll see. Next is Amazing Spider-Man 234. Looks like these are going in order now, where we've got Spider-Man versus Will-O-the-Wisp. Again, some of these Spider-Man covers, Amazing Spider-Man covers, like it reminds me of almost like the modern covers where not a ton of detail on these. I mean, it's probably not Spider-Man's best pose or position that you've ever seen there, but I think a recognizable John Romita Jr. cover of Amazing Spider-Man. Looking at the condition of this, very, very similar. Again, I see some non-color breaking ticks, just some general creasing. This too could be a good candidate for a wipe down and a press. But we'll see. In the first stack, I think I got a couple of 8.0s and the rest were 9.0s. So definitely on the lower end of my sort of expected range. I know a small sample size. Hopefully these will be a little bit better. Amazing Spider-Man 235 is next. Once again, not the most interesting or famous of Spider-Man covers. And this one definitely has a stack increase. I noticed that these others that I checked already didn't have the stack increase. So maybe it's not in the stack and how everything was packaged. Maybe that was just how they were before shipping, but this one definitely has a stack increase. Very similar condition to that ASM 310, where it's probably somewhere around the 8.5 to 9.0 range with a few color breaking ticks. And good news is, got this for an extremely affordable $1 to $2. And the last book in this stack is Amazing Spider-Man 237. This one has Stiltman on the cover, just giving it a quick glance. Not as bad of a stack increase, but same, just, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 5, just minor color breaking ticks that are just, you see one right in there by the building. They're just preventing this one from being that candidate where it's like, oh, I paid a couple of bucks and it's a 9.8. Just not the case. I am a sucker for any comic book where the trade is exploding. We've got Stiltman blasting through the Amazing Spider-Man title. I was always fascinated and love that as part of the art and design of the comic there. Now this one I ended up paying a little bit more than the others, so hopefully the values make sense on that one. But as far as conditions go, it still feels to me like overall we're kind of in a range of those 8.5s to 9.2s, I would say, or maybe even an 8 to 9 if I'm being really, really conservative and honest. And so now as I'm looking at these, I want to figure out which of these specific books would I want to consider working on. And I think, I've got a couple of candidates here as I'll grade them a little bit more closely. I think it's possible maybe the ASM 233, maybe the 234. So what I'll do is I'll pick one and I'll put it through my cleaning and pressing process, and I'm going to have that kind of working in the background while I'm grading and cataloging and data entering and doing all of that stuff. I can have a book kind of working off to the side, either active in the heat press or cooling down in the cold press. And I do like to do that. I'm a multitasker at heart, so that is part of my new routine when I say I'm comic booking, is I would like to have some books that I'm grading while I've got a book kind of working in the press itself, so that I can keep the progress of my routines moving forward. Thanks for watching, happy collecting, and see you next time.